I don't care who you are. I don't care if your job is like blowjob or fucking clit tester. You know, it's like, it sounds amazing. Like, I'll do that to the grave, but I'll do that job myself. But you gotta change it up periodically. Make it interesting for yourself. My old man worked at the post office forever, and it's like a sectional center. Real soul-crushing work. He was a motherfucker. He didn't like carry the mail to your house and be like, here you go, fucking Michael. And you're like, thanks, Postman Smith. None of that shit, man. He was the dude in the sectional center working from 11 o'clock at night till 7 in the morning, canceling your fucking stamp. He sat on the machine and was just like, cancel. So you know that, remember back in the day when people used to send mail? When I was a kid, it was a magical thing to have a fucking letter without a stamp, like a canceled stamp, because you could peel that shit off and use it again. We came from lower middle class, and it was always so ironic that my father, for a living, his job was to make sure that you couldn't reuse that 10-cent stamp. And he didn't want that for a living. He wasn't a kid going, one day I want to crush everyone's dreams. I don't know what he wanted. I asked him one day, I was like, Dad, what do you want to do with your life? And he seemed a little insulted, as if like, maybe the inference was that he hadn't done anything. He's like, why do you ask? I was like, well, no, I was just asking, like, when you were my age, what did you want to do? And he was like, well, I wanted to get married and have a family. And he did that, so, like, he was kind of fulfilled in life in that way. He didn't build a massive goal. The Smiths have always been about not reaching very far. Never. My parents taught me at a young age, it's like, accomplishment is all relative. Some people are like, climb the highest mountain, and the Smiths are always like, there's the bar, just step over it. Because when you do that, you're like, ta-da! As long as your accomplishments are fucking small, it's easy to get a lot of them going. So I guess for him, to get married and have kids, that was it for him. And the job thing was just a necessary evil. But I always felt like he probably wouldn't have minded going to work so much if it wasn't a job that he felt like, this is so fucking pointless. I'm not adding anything, you know, I'm not doing anything here. So I remember he told me a story about going to work at his job. The first 2 weeks, he was just like, you know, you're supposed to do a good job. That's what you do, your job and shit. So he put in fucking elbow grease and fucking was there when he was supposed to and had a good chipper attitude. And a fucking bunch of people pulled him aside and they were like, hey, pace yourself. This is the post office. And fucking after like 6 months of like being told to like slow down, you're fucking ruining it for the rest of us, he finally just gave up and he was just like, I'll just fucking do it the way everyone else does it. So for that dude, if he had had the opportunity at a certain point to change his profession, you know, and maybe, I'm not even saying make more, make less, but just change it, man. Change his fucking game, his environment. I think he would have taken it, but he didn't have that luxury, you know. And to his mind, he was like, I'm lucky I got this job that pays for my wife and kids and shit. For me, I'm lucky enough to be like, I made movies for 20 years almost. By the time I stop, it'll have been 20 years since I saw, well shit, it's already been 20 years since I saw Richard Linklater's film Slacker on my 21st birthday. It's been 20, yeah, because I'm going to be 42. It'll be 21 years since I saw, 21 years since I saw Slacker. And that was the movie that made me want to be a filmmaker. You do anything for 20 years, man, you know, it's like it's not going to be the same thing. And don't get me wrong, I love storytelling. Obviously, I spend a lot of time doing it with the podcasting, but doing it on film, it's just so irritating as an artist, especially somebody who wants to express as much as they can before they fucking die. That's the key for me. Like, one day we're all going to die. I hate to fucking rip spoilers, we're all going to die. So I know that. Every morning I wake up, you know, as an artist, you tend to love yourself quite a bit. And this fucking notion of one day I'll perish? Why? How will they go on without me? You know, that's what fuels your kind of art and stuff like that. So for me, the idea to say as much as possible, get as many ideas out there, tell as many stories, is way more appetizing than tell one story a year with all this money and get paid shit tons to do it. But that's it. You only get one a year. Like back in the day, it took me like, let's say Red State. Red State was the last flick I did. It took me 3 years from the moment I was like, hey, I want to make this movie called Red State, to the moment I could be like, ladies and gentlemen, that's Sundance Red State. That's a long time between an idea and sharing the idea. You know, it's like sharing the idea with the audience is what you want to do immediately. Like I said, communications medium. You just want to get the message out there. And it's so stymieing and frustrating to wait for millions of dollars to do that, to tell your simple story. Like if I'm doing a podcast, I sit down, start talking, an hour later, I put it up online. It's communicated. It's theater of the mind. I don't have to build it. I don't have to like fucking Big Ben, can you do this movie for free this time, please? Everyone's everyone who's listening builds it in their mind's eye. And maybe it's not as sexy and won't get you on Us fucking Weekly cover, but that's not what I'm about. As a storyteller, you just want to tell as many stories as possible. And filmmaking, unfortunately, is like the one art form that slows everything to a fucking crawl. Like, and it requires so much. If I was a singer, I could just like kind of open my mouth and start singing. You'd know how I felt because I'd be emoting that way. That's how I've expressed myself. If I was a painter, I could take a black fucking canvas or a blank canvas and just paint on it, and there you'd know how I felt inside. Be like, there's my self-expression. But unfortunately, like, I fell into filmmaking first, and filmmaking is that one rare art form where the artist has to kind of do something you don't have to do in any of the other fields. You, like, if you want to self-express, you want to express yourself, or if I do, this is how it works. I go, I want to self-express. Give me $20 million and Ben Affleck. You know, it's like, I don't want that anymore. I want to be able to be like, I want to self-express, and here it is, blah. Like, this to me is way more interesting than if I could sit on a set. And so the podcasts are an extension of that. The TV stuff like Spoilers has been an extension of that. So when I say like I'm retiring, I ain't going anywhere. Like, I'm just not doing that one thing anymore, making flicks.
Is that why you're working with you know, these kids on Bindlestips and
The
getting involved with them?
very much so, because like, look, I got into movies in the first place because I love movies. You don't do it because you're like, well, I guess some people do it for like ulterior motives. For me, I just wanted to be a part of it. It looked magical. You know, like, oh my God, I've been looking at movies my whole life. My father would take me to the movies all the time. And then when I became older, when I saw Slacker, I was like, holy shit, you can actually make these things if you're not like born in a magic egg in Hollywood. I didn't know how they happened. So I was like, here's a normal guy from fucking Nowheresville, Texas, making movies. That was Richard Linklater. Thank God I didn't know that Nowheresville was actually Austin, Texas. Not only the capital of Texas, but a really big arts community. And I'm glad I didn't know that, because if I'd known that, I'd been like, well, of course he's doing it there. But hearing about this guy in the middle of Texas that was in Los Angeles or New York making movies, I was like, wow, shit, man, if he could do it in Nowheresville, Texas, maybe I could do it in Nowheresville, New Jersey. So when I did it because I loved it. I got into film, and you know, all the movies we make, obviously you look at them, they weren't made by the same fucking committee of people that are like, and this will make $100 million. They really, whether you like them or not, they are very much me. I didn't make films as much as I would just rip open my fucking chest, pull out fatty chunks of art, slap it on 2 platters, project it, and be like, what do you think? So that's why my body of work works the way it does. For some people, it hits fucking hard. It's gospel truth. And for other people, it's just like, he doesn't know how to move a fucking camera. So nobody's right, nobody's wrong. But it's just like, there is a connection to the material because the guy who made that shit played it so real. It was all heart. You know what I'm saying? I was never a paycheck player. And don't get me wrong, I got paid and it was nice. But that was not why I did it. And it took me... The ones I got paid on are the ones you would, you know, fucking suspect I got paid on, I would imagine. The ones I didn't get paid on are the ones that fucking shine. Because that was by hook or by crook, I'm going to make this shit. I don't care what happens. I don't care if it takes me $27,000 or fucking $1 million. I'm going to tell this fucking story. So when you play it like that, and then one day, I can't speak for other filmmakers, it's different for everybody, but for me, being that guy, being like total hard player, you eventually just fucking pour it all out. Like if you burn the candle at both ends, you eventually fucking will meet with no wax, and then where do you go? So I've played it full out, hard play. That's why Cop Out bugged me so much. People are like, why are you crying about Bruce Willis? And I was like, this is why. Because my whole fucking career, man, I played it so from the heart. And everybody on those sets, they were there for the same fucking reason. Like, I got some big names in some of those flicks we did, and they could have commanded a hefty salary, but they never did. We got them for fucking scale, because they really connected with that material, or they were just, or they liked me, or I had pictures of them sucking each other's dicks. He does for boys from Boston, I'll say that. whatever reason they decide to join you, man, they join you to try to help tell your story and stuff. They're there as passion players as well. Because you don't look at any of the movies I did and be like, that's a good career move for me as an actor. The one guy that got through on Cop Out, the dude I talked about before, he wasn't there for the passion. He wasn't there for the heart. He was a total paycheck player. And that fucking ruined me. I had a spotless record, man. And that doesn't mean anything to a lot of people. Like, who gives a shit? Grow up. It's a fucking business. You can't work with people you like all the time. That's okay. I've worked with motherfuckers who I can't stand, but they played an A game. So I don't give a shit. It's like, if you're here to bring me your art, once the cameras stop rolling, if you're a dick, I can't help that. But when those cameras roll, don't be a dick. Like, there's a lot of money here, and we're all fucking got this beautiful, amazing job. We get to make pretend for a living. Don't be a dick. And that dude was. So that bugged me. That's what bugged me, is a dude got through who was just there to collect the fucking check. That was a little heartbreaking for me. And it changed it for me as well. I was like, I'll never do that again. I'll never let somebody through that is only here to collect a check. I thought I'd fucking done it forever, but he was the one that got through for me. Anyway, so when I put the film thing down, it's just a matter of going to explore the other arts. Like, rather than be stuck in the same job like my father, I feel like flip the script. And that means giving up shit. Like, film is wonderful, man. It's like heroin. It's just tough to put down because once they start paying you to make pretend and paying you substantial amounts of money to make pretend, more than you ever imagined your whole family would see in a fucking lifetime, it's tough to be like, all right, I'm going to put this down and do something else now. You know, nobody wants to walk away from security, but I loved it so much, I still do, that I can't just phone it in. I can't just fucking paint by numbers, and I don't have any more stories to tell. So I decided to put directing down, but help other people. You got all this amassed information, all this amassed knowledge for the last, 2 decades on how to do this. You want to spread it around, you know, and who do you spread it around to? You spread it around to cats who want it most, and that's like the people who were me now, who I was 20 years ago. In the case of Bindlestiffs, it's these 2 cats who were from Texas when they were in their teens. It's like a fucking perfect Cinderella story. When they were in their teens in high school, they started making this movie that they shot like on video. And then they went to college and they stopped. You know, one went to NYU, one went to the West Coast, Andrew Luke. And then finally, I guess one of their teachers was like, you should finish this, it's kind of funny. So they're like, all right, they went back to Texas and they finished the flick. They took it to Slamdance and it won the audience award. So you hear that and you're like, all right, well, I've won awards and I know my shit's crap, so this might not mean anything. I want to see this movie for myself. So I watched it. And I watched it as a guy who makes comedy. I didn't watch it like most people. When you're a person that tries to be funny for a living, you know, you tend to be a bit more judgmental of everything else that's funny. It's like, what will make you laugh? So I'm sitting down watching the movie, and I'm like 3 minutes into it. I'm going, okay, let me see where the influence is. I'm going to see Judd Apatow soon. I'm going to see Wes Anderson soon. I'm going to see, if I'm lucky, maybe I'll see a little Kevin Smith soon or something like that. But you're going to see an influence here because nobody does anything original anymore. You know, it's just impossible to do in many cases. And then I'm 20 minutes into this movie and I'm like, Jesus Christ, they cracked the code. Like, these kids aren't a facsimile of anything. They're not a copy of a copy of a copy. They're not informed by anything. They really stand there and say something funny in an original way. And that was exciting to me as like a filmmaker, as a fan of comedy, as a fan of storytelling in general. So right away I was like, let's do it. Let's pick these guys up. They're the perfect way to kind of keep the dream going. Like, I'm not going to make movies myself, but I love being around them. And if I can pass off a good piece of advice to somebody, you know, to avoid the pitfalls that may be coming down a road for them or something like that, some pitfalls I've seen over the years, or not even pitfalls, just give them a little bit of strategy, whatever they want to know, I could be there for it. So that's kind of what the idea was with Smodcast Pictures Presents and with Bindlestiffs. We'll take it out in August, and we'll take it out the same way I took out Red State, just place to place, kind of put up screenings and bring our audience out to come see it. And it was fun, man. When we toured Red State, that was like the best time I had. The whole distribution of that movie, man, just felt so fun and artsy. We were engaged, because generally you make a movie and then you hand it off to somebody and they go sell it, and that's it. Like, your hands are off it, and they'll start telling you to shape the movie based on marketing results and shit like that. So with Red State, taking it out into the theaters before it eventually went to DVD and home video and streaming shit was so awesome, because you'd be there in the room with people. We ran it like a fucking rock concert. So every night we would show this movie about some religious nut who would stand on stage and speak to his congregation. Then the movie would end, and then another religious nut would get up and speak to his congregation during the Q&A. So it was fun. It was such a good fucking time, man. And shit like that is like why doing Bindlestiffs is like a natural for me. Like, oh, I'll enjoy doing it. You get to hang out with the kids. You get to go to places. I love watching a movie with an audience, and you love introducing people to new shit. It makes you look smart. You know, it's like on a currency cool. When I was a kid, you'd hand somebody like a fucking beta or a VHS of Monty Python's Holy Grail and be like, you gotta see this, you know? And then they'd see it and be like, you're so cool, where'd you find this? So as an adult, you know, it's tougher and tougher to find anything cool anymore, because everything gets discovered like this, and then we're on to the next thing. So it's nice to be